mode of compassion manifested in our actions. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I'm grateful to be here with all of you today. And so today I'll be discussing on the topic of how to give feedback constructively to others. So we'll discuss this. Okay. Is this steadier now? Can you hear me? You can't hear.
Yeah, fan we can reduce.
Hare Krishna. Can you hear me behind?
Yes, Prabhu.
So we'll be discussing this based on Bhagavad Gita 3.26. So in this book, which I am also displaying over here, can you see over here?
Yes.
So among all the books in our tradition, I feel most connected with the Bhagavad Gita. And I have been writing an article on the Gita for the last 15 years, every day. So I did almost 5,000 articles. And recently I started feeling that I was doing a lot of analytical study of the Gita. But I felt that the Gita is also having a devotional dimension to it, which I was not addressing. So I looked at the Acharya's commentary, looked at the various ways in which the Acharyas have referenced the Gita verses. So I found in the Mukunda Mala Stotra, which is a composition by Kulashekar Maharaj, who is a great Alvar saint, South India, that there was a one prayer which I felt was almost like inspired by a Bhagavad Gita verse. So in 12.7, Bhagavad Krishna says that Tesham aham samuddharta mrityu samsara sagarat. So I lift them from the ocean of material existence. And then this verse from Kulashekar Maharaj says that samsara sagar nimagna mananda deenam uddharatum arasi hare purushottamosmi. So he says that this ocean of material existence is unending and unsurpassable. Please, O Lord, it behooves you to lift me from this ocean. So, now why does it behoove the Lord? Because the Lord has promised that this is what I will do. This I will deliver you from material existence. So basically, the Gita's verse is like an inspiration for the prayer that Kulashekar Maharaj is offering. So based on that, since this January 1st, I started writing prayers based on the Bhagavad Gita. So taking select Gita verses and offering prayers, so which help us to understand that verse and understand how we can apply that verse. So like that, in the book that you have, they have 122 verses. How many of you have a copy of the book? Some of you can share it with others if you have it. Otherwise, I'm displaying it over here also. So what we'll be doing is, we'll be reading from this and then we will be discussing some points. So in each verse, there is a beautiful picture of a deity of Krishna. Then there is a one sentence spiritual devotional affirmation, which is like a summary of the prayer, like a prayer. And then I've taken the Gita verse and translated it in English poetry, so that we get an emotional connect with the Gita. And then there is the prayer which inspires how we can apply it. So you can repeat after me. My dear Lord, help me to learn how to help others to learn. This is often the prayer that I offer in my mind when I start a talk, because when we are trying to help others communicating a message, it is that Prabhupada also says that make my words understandable to others. So this is an educational principle as well as a mentoring, counseling, relational principle. This is based on 326 in the Bhagavad Gita. Let's recite the verse. Na buddhi bhedam janayet Ajnanam karma sanginam Joshayet sarva karmani Vidvan yuktah samacharan The wise should not disturb the mind of those to worldly work inclined. Let them act while you gently show the path to truth that they may know. So Krishna here is talking about two categories of people. So I request different devotees to read one paragraph and we'll discuss based on that. So we will have maybe one paragraph, Prabhus can read one paragraph, Vaishnavis can read.
My dear Lord, you emphasize the good intention is not a substitute for good intelligence. Even when I want to do good for others and guide them towards a higher level of consciousness so that they may ultimately connect with you, I need to carefully consider whether such instructions might be disruptive for them, even to the point of being destructive.
Yes, thank you. So here, we'll discuss one paragraph and then we'll come. So in this verse, Krishna is basically talking about two levels of people. There is, broadly we can say there is the teacher and there is the student. There is the mentor and the mentee. There could be the parent and the child. There could be the spiritual seer, the guru, and there could be the spiritual seeker. So Krishna is giving two characteristics of each. The teacher is saying Vidwan and Yuktaha. Vidwan is wise. And Yuktaha is connected, engaged, which basically means detached. Detached from the world, connected with Krishna. This is detached. And then as contrasted with that, he is giving the characteristic of the student, that is Na buddhi vedam janayet ajnanam karma sangina. Ajnanam is ignorant. So, and then there is ajnanam karma sangina, that is attached. So there are two levels of people. And say the teacher is here and the student is here. Now the teacher wants that the student rise to the level, a higher level. And that is what we try to do, whether in any relationship where we are playing any educational or guiding role. So the goal is that we want to get that person to come up to me. However, sometimes this may become too high a leap for a person. And instead of coming up, that person goes down. Person tries to come up, but they can't come up, and then they go further down. So, in general, the good intention is that we want to help that person. But good intention needs to be complemented with good intelligence. Good intelligence means what is this person capable of doing? What is within the capacity of the person and what is not within the capacity of the person. So, if we have a child and say we want our child to become physically fit and sturdy, so we take our child to a gym. And the child can maybe lift 1 kg weight. But if the child, come on, lift 10 kg weight. The child tries to lift a 10 kg weight and then gets injured. And after the child says, I'll never go to gym again. I'll never do any lifting. Now with respect to physical weights, it's easy to understand. That we can't expect anybody to lift, a small child to lift a heavy weight. But with respect to other things, areas where we want somebody to improve, this sometimes becomes a little difficult to understand, difficult to apply. So when we are giving feedback, so wanting the person to rise upwards, this is good intention. The intention is good, and we want the person to rise up. But if the person is going down, that means the intelligence is not so good. The intelligence is poor. So now we don't want this to happen in general. So I'll talk about this in 3 broad terms. Whenever we see that somebody is doing something which is off, which is not working properly, which they are not able to do right, and we want to tell them to, okay, this is how you should do it. So what are the factors that we need to consider by which we can ensure that that person will take it positively and will be able to rise upwards. Okay. So three factors broadly which we need to consider. Say if I am here and the other person is here. So the first thing is that whenever somebody does not do something, so what is our attitude toward that person? So I'll talk about an acronym called ACT. ACT. So first is appreciation. I explain what appreciation means. In this context, see, generally, whenever somebody does something which we don't like, depending on our overall attitude toward that person, we arrive at some inference, some explanation of why that person did what they did. Somebody yells. Okay, now that's not a very pleasant action. So in general, when say if I am looking at someone over here, this other person. So now what I can see is their action. But beyond the action, I try to understand their motivation, their intention, their character. We try to understand that. So for example, if we prepared some food and some person comes to as a guest to our home and say we had prepared so like some dessert was there and maybe we prepared 2 gulab jamuns for everyone. And this person alone takes 6 gulab jamuns. And then everybody else you have to give half gulab jamun. Now if this happens, now this is something which is a little disruptive. So when somebody does something which is disruptive, now we could say, maybe that they didn't know that there were only a limited number of gulab jamuns. Or we could say, this person, what a glutton. What a bakasur ka avatar hai. This person has no sense control, no sense of decency or culture. Now, which explanation is right? We don't know that. But in general, what happens? If we like the person, we go towards the more charitable explanation. If we dislike the person, we go towards the more uncharitable explanation. So if somebody is sleeping too much, we may say, maybe they must be exhausted, maybe they might be sick. That if we like that person. If we don't like that person, what a lazy person, isn't it? So in general, whenever there is an action, from there we arrive at a judgment about the person. And quite often, this judgment is not based on the action alone. While we say that it has come from the action, actually it has come from our overall opinion of that person. And that opinion may be formed by various factors. So what happens when we are trying to assess someone, we may use that particular incident as a basis for saying this is why I am allowed at this conclusion. But the other person may say this is just one incident. Why are you making such a big deal out of it? So why are you making a mountain out of a molehill? And we may say, why are you making a mountain into a molehill? It is actually a mountain. It is a big thing. So that person says, this is just one-off incident. We say, no, it's not a one-off incident. It's a pattern. So what happens? This is where, in general, if our attitude toward a person is negative, then we will gravitate towards negative explanations. And generally when we gravitate toward negative explanations, that is where often that causes damage to relationships. I'll give an example of this. That so whenever we are giving any feedback, generally if a person is doing something which is objectionable, there are broadly three levels at which we could say that this is something which is problematic. That so there is some objectionable action. So whenever there is objectionable action, we could say that it is a judgment error. We may question the judgment of the person. So for example, if we are organizing a program and we say that probably about 200 people will come to the program. That person says 100 people will come to the program. And they are in charge of cooking, they say they cook for 100 people. And then 200 people come. And we feel upset now. What are we going to do? How are we going to provide food for the remaining 100 people? What? So now this is a mistake. This is a judgment error. Anybody can make a judgment error. And generally, if it's a judgment error, we learn and we improve. But sometimes we may say that it's actually an ability deficiency. That person just does not have the ability to judge properly. So that person should not be in kitchen in charge. That person should not be having this responsible service. So now if somebody questions our judgment, that is painful. But if somebody questions our ability, will that be less painful or more painful?
More painful.
More painful. More painful. Now, what is even more painful is motive suspicion. Motive suspicion becomes more like morality. You actually wanted this program to fail. You are envious of me and I was organizing this program. You wanted my program to fail so that I will not be successful in my service. Now this, if we accuse someone of this, then that is not, criticizing somebody for their ability is bad enough. But criticizing somebody's morality or character, that is the worst. Then it becomes very, very difficult to recover from that kind of criticism. So basically these three things, this creates a traffic jam in our relationship. A judgment error, an ability deficiency, or a motive suspicion. Now, going back to our earlier point, that in general, if we like someone, then we will go towards the least critical explanation. If we dislike someone, we will go towards the most critical explanation. So whenever we see somebody doing something wrong, why are they not doing the right thing? So having an appreciative attitude means start with the least negative explanation. Start with the most positive cause. Why are they doing something? Okay, probably it was a judgment error. But if when we give feedback, we start by attributing the most negative cause to their action, then that person will not be able to take the feedback. That person will feel so wounded, so hurt, that they will just not be able to listen to us. So, and this actually is very much possible even in spiritual societies. See, in spiritual societies, generally people come to spiritual organizations for a sense of community, a sense of belonging. Our modern society is actually quite lonely. And in the past there were joint families, then there were nuclear families. Now even the nucleus is split. And we have solitary protons and neutrons orbiting around in the concrete jungles. So now, actually in UK was the first state country which appointed an official minister for loneliness. And the first minister for loneliness resigned because of loneliness. That is one of the factors. It's really mental health. So it is a serious problem. So often people come to spiritual organizations because they want a sense of community, a sense of belonging. And ironically, what religious sociologists have found is that if there are some religious groups which have very high standards, it could be high moral standards or high ritual standards, then people who come to such groups actually feel more lonely than materialistic people. Why? Because if there are high moral standards, then if somebody has a slip from the standards, then they cannot talk about it with anyone. Because the fear is I'll be judged. What will people think about it? And then people end up feeling lonelier. By the way, is this also the
Yes.
case?
Absolutely.
So what happens? So if why does this happen? Say if some devotee is doing something differently. Say I was at my place actually I do some online outreach. I have a website as I mentioned. There are people who connect with me through online. So one person had connected with me and I told him we can go to the local temple and connect with the community. Then I was holding a retreat in the eco village, or the eco village in Mumbai. And several other people connected with me had come there. So this person also came. And I asked him, how do you find the local temple? So he said, actually there are two groups over there. And he said, both groups, there is Kurukshetra going on with me. I said, okay, this happens sometimes. So what is the reason? This is both of them are, there's no temple, both of them are congregation community, but they have their own groups and every weekend they come for Mangalarti. He said one group comes for Mangalarti at 4:30 a.m. The other group comes for Mangalarti at 5 a.m. And I went to both groups and the first group told me, Prabhupada said Mangalarti is 4:30. If you are not having Mangalarti at 4:30, you are not following Prabhupada. If you are not following Prabhupada, it is not Mangalarti, it is Amangalarti. And Krishna is not going to accept that arti. You are just insincere. You don't want to follow Prabhupada, you are a deviant. How do you know whether Krishna is going to accept something like that? So now, practically, first of all, these are Grahastha devotees. The fact that they are coming from Mangalarti itself is laudable. So now there could be various reasons why somebody is coming at 5 o'clock and not at 4:30. In our Radhagopta temple, our temple is right in the middle of the city. So we had Mangalarti at 4:30 and a lot of our neighbors complained. So there are almost multiple court cases happened because we are causing noise pollution. So then we shifted the Mangalarti to 5 o'clock. Somehow that half an hour delay has pacified the neighbors. Now for years the Mangalarti went 5 o'clock. There could be various reasons for it. And if you want to say also, actually speaking, it is Brahma Murta. It is 1.5 hours before sunrise. Sunrise can be different at different times, isn't it? So if you consider sunrises in Kolkata at one time and sunrises in Mumbai at different time, India is a large country. So these are small things. But based on small things, sometimes we may make big judgments. So if some devotee is doing something in a different way, you are deviating from Prabhupada. You are a deviant. Now, you are a deviant. Is that a judgment error? Is that judgment ability or motive? If you're calling somebody a deviant?
Motive.
Yes, it's a motive. So that is why there can be a lot of polarization even in the devotee community. Because when we have to give feedback, what happens is before we start giving the feedback itself, we start getting pushback. Because that person feels not that I am being corrected, they feel my very core, my character is being threatened, my character is being questioned. So in general, start with the most charitable explanation. Start with positive. Be appreciative means, yes, this could have been a judgment error. Anybody can make judgment errors. Now, should we never go toward negative explanations? No. No, sometimes we may have to go. If somebody is repeatedly doing something wrong, then we may say maybe see some devotee short term. Now everybody tries to work on their anarthas, but some people may have a very deep-rooted condition. So when I was growing up, I had a bit of a temper. Now when I was growing up, one of my hobbies was English vocabulary. So I used to pick up a dictionary and memorize words. So I had a fairly good vocabulary. And having a vocabulary is a good thing. But what I discovered is that a good vocabulary and a bad temper is a deadly combination. See, what happens is a good vocabulary makes a person articulate. Normally most people when they get angry, they might just shout and yell, but they become mostly incoherent. What they speak doesn't make much sense and you turn off. So this person has lost the plot. But if somebody is articulate, they can become very cutting and sarcastic. And I realized that actually I was hurting a lot of people. So what happens is that I didn't have an intention of hurting anyone. But it was just that when anger would come, my ability was becoming my liability. That is what actually our anarthas do. What our anarthas do is, if somebody has anger, whatever ability we may have, our ability is made into our liability. If somebody has the ability to be a leader, somebody has the ability to speak well, somebody has the ability to organize, somebody has the ability to inspire, that is the ability. And they can become a leader. But if they have a lot of ego, then what will happen is they will crush anybody who doesn't agree with them. And they can become very autocratic. So the very thing that made them develop their ability, that can become a liability for them. So they can become a leader, but they can become a dominator, exploiter, a predator. So the idea is that for all of us, so I was talking about anger, that okay, somebody is short-tempered. Now if somebody is short-tempered, okay, that is, if repeatedly they are yelling at someone, then what do we do at that time? We can tell them that, okay, maybe this is not the way you should speak. This is the way it hurts people. But the problem could be that they keep doing it again and again, because that conditioning takes time to go. Then we may decide maybe that a particular service may not be suited for a person. If somebody is short-tempered, maybe a short-tempered person should not be in charge of guest reception. Or somebody who is short-tempered should not be in charge of devotee care. If somebody has a bit of weakness for sweets, then maybe that person should not be in charge of Mahaprasad. So now ability deficiency means if the same mistake is happening again and again and again, that does not necessarily mean the character is bad. That doesn't motive is wrong. This means okay, some people can do some services well, some people can't do some services well. And we also need to at such times learn to differentiate the person from their ability. So that okay, you have sincere service attitude. You can do many services. This is a service that is best done by someone else. That way we can help them let the person off gently. So ability deficiency, that's the second thing. But now sometimes the motive itself may be questionable. But jumping to that conclusion is what makes things worse. Sometimes we may have somebody who is troubling us a lot. And sometimes it may come off. I don't know what bad karma I did in my past life because of which I got you in my life. That's very, very hurtful. Because what we are doing over there is, we are basically saying that that person's existence itself is trouble for us. I was once trying to do mediation between two people, and the first person said that, I can see that you are very angry with me. Can you tell me what have I done to make you so angry? And the second person said, you exist.
No.
No, the second person is actually not saying it in a sarcastic way, saying everything about you. The sound of your voice, the way you laugh, the way you sit, the way you walk, the way you wear your clothes, everything irritates me. Now, what do you do if somebody says your existence itself is a problem? Then there is no solution over there. So, in general, start with the appreciative attitude. Okay? So, what are the acronym we are discussing? ACT. Now, once we have understood that, okay, this is the problem. So, here that a good intention might be there, but good intelligence means, I'm talking about start with the least negative explanation. Don't go to the worst explanation. You would like to read the next paragraph?
When I want to help to others.
Mic is not on.
When I want to help others rise. When I want to help others rise, and even when they want to rise, I may expect, demand, or insist that they progress faster than they are capable of. Consequently, they may slip and fall, falling further than where they originally were. That is, they may become alienated from spirituality, thinking it to be impractical or impossible, or alienated from spiritualists, thinking them to be too critical or fussy.
So, two things. People may turn away from spirituality or from spiritualists. You know, we in India think that for us America is a very materialistic country. For us America means Hollywood. But actually in the Western world, America is the most religious country. As compared to other countries like Canada, New Zealand or Australia, they are much more atheistic. America has a whole southern belt. The middle and the southern part is quite religious. So I was in Texas. I was going for a program. Texas is considered a part of the Bible Belt. So I was going for a program, and in front of me there was a car. And on that car is a bumper sticker. It said, "Oh God, please save me from your preachers." So now in Christianity, the idea is that God saves us through his preachers. But the idea is that preacher is very holier than thou, judgmental, condemning. Then I don't want anything to do with such people. So sometimes when the feedback is given, it is that the person doesn't just not listen to the feedback, the person stops listening to anything that the person says. Like, they don't just don't listen to that particular suggestion. They think what this person is saying just makes no sense at all. Quite often this happens with teenagers. Teenagers often say, "You don't understand what I'm saying.
Correct.
You don't understand." And the parents say, "You don't listen." So it can happen between couples, it can happen between anyone in general. So the thing is that sometimes when we are giving feedback, the way, first we talk about what is the motive, what is our overall attitude toward the person, how are we internally assessing. So always we try to have an appreciative attitude. This person is a part of Krishna and everybody is trying their best. Now we may say their best is too little, that's okay, but they're doing what they can in the situation. So have an appreciative attitude. But after the appreciative attitude is there, the next part is that when we speak, the communication that we do. So appreciation with respect to our internal attitude. The communication that we do, so how we see the person, then how we communicate. So in general, if we are to give constructive feedback, I use this acronym called AID. Like we want to offer aid to others. So first thing we tell is, what was the action they did? Sometimes we say, "You are so irresponsible, you are so insensitive." So what is happening over here? Irresponsible, insensitive, these are labels. And often these labels are based on the character itself, the motive itself. So start with the action. Then after starting with the action, tell the impact. When you spoke so loudly, person felt so hurt that they said they will never come again over here. In fact, they told their entire community, we are planning to do a program over there. They said, don't invite these people. And the whole program opportunity got lost for us. So clearly tell the action. Then after that, tell the impact of the action. And then, actually, sorry, it's not A. That is air. Air is, we give them some breathing space. R is recommendation. So in such situations, it might be better if you call the person privately and talk with them. Don't speak so loudly and don't speak publicly. So what happens is, if we feel suffocated somewhere, we will not go to that place. Sometimes in some relationships we feel suffocated. Sometimes with some person we feel suffocated. And then if we feel suffocated, when we come to when that person comes to us, we just want to go away from that person. So this sequence, broadly speaking, in general, whenever there is a relationship, an interaction, any incident that happens, okay, there are two people over here. There is the objective side to it, and there is a subjective side to it. How many of you are familiar with the words objective and subjective? Okay. So, objective means it is related with facts. This is the objective reality. Subjective is more of the opinion. Okay. So, like two people may come to a satsang program and they say the objective reality was that the program was quite crowded. The subjective thing would be, so many people come for these programs. Spirituality seems to be so popular. I should also be a part of it. Somebody says, this is so crowded. I don't want to go to this crowded place. I won't go there. So objective is less debatable. Objective is more grounded in facts. Objective is more fact-based. Subjective is more opinion-based. So you are so irresponsible. You are so insensitive. Is this objective or is this subjective?
Subjective.
For the person giving it, I say you are insensitive. But for the person receiving it, it's an assessment, it's an evaluation. So when it comes to evaluations, people can have differences of opinion. See, generally, whenever two people are talking with each other, it is important, even if we are discussing something sensitive, if there is what they call as a high stakes discussion. High stakes means or a high temperature discussion, high octane discussion. There is a very important topic discussions, high stakes discussion is going on. So at that time, when two people are going to discuss, we can start, when we start the discussion, we can start with differences. You do like this and I don't like this. And I said, you do like this and I don't like this. Or we can start with commonalities. Now, which start is more likely to lead to a better harmonious understanding?
Commonalities.
Yes. Start with commonalities. Then differences may have to be addressed. But we start with commonalities. Say, if two parents are taking care of a child, and now one parent might want to be very strict and disciplined in a very rigid way. The other parent may say, no, let the child also have some space. Everybody learns through mistakes, let them grow. Now, this could be like very different approaches to parenting. One parent might be very strict, another parent might be a little more liberal. So now, if the focus is only on the differences, then there will be disagreement. But what is common? Both parents want the good of the child. Both parents want what is the best for the child. Now, how that best is going to be pursued, that there's a different approach. But so the point I'm making is that if we start with commonalities, then there is a greater chance for discussion. If we start with differences, then there is a breakdown of the discussion that happens right in the beginning. So going back to this, in general, when there is a discussion, the subjective is likely to be different. Subjective assessment is going to be different. The objective is something we both can agree. So, you don't respect me at all. Okay, now this is feeling, somebody is feeling disrespected. This is an assessment. Whenever we have a meeting, you never come on time. This is more like an objective fact. So that's why when we are giving feedback, start with the action. The action is more objective. The action is more objective. Okay, when you forgot to bring this, or when you spoke in this way, when you hid this fact from me, it's objective. So start with the action. Then at least, okay, there is some grounding. And then rather than giving a judgment, you are unfaithful, you are hypocritical, focus on the impact. So now when I say the impact can be subjective. Yes, it can be a combination of objective and subjective. So impact could be, when you spoke so loudly to that person felt hurt. Now how do you know that person felt hurt? He told me. But he didn't tell me. There could be some debate of opinion. But that person said, I'm never going to come for this event. That is somewhat objective. So in general, so if we are going from objective to subjective. So the objective, there is a greater chance for agreement. Agreement is relatively easier. In the subjective, agreement is tougher. It doesn't come so easily. Agreement is much tougher. That's why the A with respect to action, that is the closest to objective. This is what you did. This is what happened, and this is what you did. The action. Then the impact. Impact is a little less objective, but still it is significantly objective. So when you did this happened. So sometimes we may be in a particular role where we can see the impact, but the other person just doesn't see the impact. Say, if we tell a child, don't drive without license. If you drive without license, or if you drive above the speed limit, what is the big deal? I have a devotee doctor friend, he's an orthopedic surgeon. He was telling me that once he was driving to his hospital, and there was a young man who was driving on a bike. But there is something about a bike which seems to bring out the speed demon in people. The people just want to drive devilishly fast, going this way, going this way. There's a bit of adventure is there. So this person was just going super fast, dangerous. A man red signal came, and he had stopped, and this devotee also pulled over next to him. And this devotee rolled down his window, and he took out his card. He said, I am an orthopedic surgeon, you are going to need my services. So, at that time you might just think about the adventure. But the action has an impact. So in general, what happens? We often give instruction to people. Now, instruction leads to, why should I listen to you? But what we give, instead of giving instruction, we try to give vision to people. Instruction is, do this, don't do this. Vision is, if you do this, this will happen. If you do this, this will happen. So in many ways, if you look at the approach of Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna in a few places gives instruction. But most of the times, Krishna is giving vision. There are many places where directly Krishna says, If you do this, this will happen. Machitta sarvadurgani matprasadaat parishyasi. Atha chetum ahankara nashoshasi vinamishasi. When we say vision, what does vision mean? Vision essentially means action and impact. You can say. So A1 will lead to I1. This action, this impact. This action will lead to this impact. So when we give vision to others, then it is relatively easier for the other person. Okay, I don't want this to happen. I don't want this to happen. So then it's easier for that person to accept it. So what are we doing over here? When we are talking about the action and the impact, we are helping the person get vision. If you see Krishna himself, he is God. But he doesn't focus on simply giving instructions. If he had wanted to just give instruction, he could have finished the whole Gita in 6 words. I am God. Obey me. Fight. Bhagavad Gita Sampurna. So, Krishna does not do that. Krishna gives Arjuna vision. So, in general, what happens when we are trying to give feedback? We tell about the action, tell about the impact of the action. And then, after that, we can give a recommendation. So now, recommendation as contrasted with a value judgment. You are so irresponsible. You are so insensitive. You are so disrespectful. So this is a judgment about which the person can't do much. Okay, they say, you are irresponsible. No, I'm not irresponsible. That's all. But it is a recommendation. Okay, in this situation, if you do like this, then later on, we can also point out to the person. No, this was the recommendation that was given to you. Once, twice, thrice. But repeatedly, you rejected it, you neglected it. So then when stronger action is taken, we also have some solid basis for that stronger action being taken. Otherwise, what happens, we take some strong action, that person will, you are just arbitrary. You are authoritarian. You are tyrannical. So, you are just like Hitler, whatever. People start giving negative labels to those who try to do something good for others. So this is the second part. When we communicate, try to start with the objective, start with action, then talk about the impact, then give the recommendation. Broadly speaking, this is, you could say, sattvic communication. See, in Rajas, what happens, the emotions become very strong. And the emotions become very strong, then we want to control the other person. So, generally when we are communicating, with respect to communication, let's move forward, that when we communicate, when we are in Rajaguna and we are Tamoguna, when you are Rajas, you must listen to me. And in Tamas, you never listen. So what happens is, you must listen, that leads to a forcefulness. There's too much force over there. And nobody likes to be forced to do something. And here, you never listen, we just feel helpless. It's there, our forcefulness towards them, or our feeling of helplessness. From you never listen, you become people never listen to me. And then what happens? Then we start feeling sorry for ourselves, there is the victim mentality that comes up. And then we just become more and more isolated, more and more disconnected from others. Now, Sattva is what? How can I help the other person to understand? So, how can I help the other to understand? That's why, help me to help others. That was the starting prayer. And so, this is the second part. When we talk about communicating, the best way to communicate is to try to give some action that was done which was problematic, give some explanation of the impact of the action, and give some specific recommendation. So somebody will tell, if somebody is, if you are in a bad mood, then better, you can take some time to relax before you take up this service. You're going to come in public and speak in public, then you have to unwind, you have to recharge yourself. So we can do some specific recommendation. And the last part, what was the acronym we were discussing? ACT. A-C-T. The last is time. Sometimes some people may require time to change. And when it means that they may take time to change, that means that they may have to go through their own experiences to learn. Now we may say it is best that you learn by hearing, learn by intelligence. But sometimes that person may not really be convinced and they may do it resentfully. Sometimes people may have to go through certain experiences to learn certain things. And when we talk about time, what it means is that we give others time. That does not mean we give our time to them. They are two different things. Give others time means you take your time to understand and learn this. It doesn't mean that we give our time to them. So for example, we invite somebody for a program and we open the door for them and they don't come. We invite them again. Maybe 2, 3, 4 times we invite them, they don't come. Then what do we do at that time? Okay, that person is not interested. We might keep a cordial relationship with them. And maybe later on something happens in their life. At that time they feel that maybe I should explore the spiritual business. Maybe I need some higher shelter in my life. So we open the door for them and then we can keep the door open so that they can come in whenever they want. But sometimes when we open the door for someone and they don't walk through, then what happens? We slam the door shut. You insincere fool, get lost and stay lost. You are doomed. No, that doesn't work. So everybody goes through phases in their life. And see, even if we look at our own life, we learn certain things. We grow in particular ways. It is not necessary that, see, when learning happens, basically learning and growing. Now, how does it happen? There are lots of factors involved. It's not so easy to figure out. One factor is intelligence. Now, we can try to explain to that person what is going on. But beyond that, it is their own experience. So, intelligence is important, experience is important. At the same time, that means what? If we tell a person something right now, we may say some actions are so terrible, you should not experience those things. When somebody says that I want to jump down from a 100-story building and see what happens, well, you won't be there to see what happens. So some experience is so terrible that when you forcefully tell them to stop, you cannot do this. But there are different things in life and everything cannot be forced on you. In the Mahabharata, there is a significant discussion how there is in Mahabharata that there is a difference between illegal and immoral. Everything immoral cannot be made illegal. Like lying is bad. But should lying be a crime that is persecuted by the police, that is judged in court and people are put in jail for that? Well, yeah, if you lie on a legal document, that's different. The police have so many things to do. If you start making lying as illegal, there are many things which are wrong, but there is scope. People do that, people see the counterproductive effects, and then they learn from it. So sometimes we have to give others space, give others time. They may have to learn from their experience. And you say, no, but so especially if it's a child, if it's somebody who's like, we are in a parent-child relationship with that person. No, I don't want you to suffer. But the problem is that they may resent us because we see that it is a bad choice, they don't see it as a bad choice. And because of that, they feel, you are not giving me space, you are suffocating me. So sometimes people have to go through their own experiences. There's an American thinker, Mark Twain. He said, when I was 17, my father was a fool. Now I am 25, and I'm amazed how much the old guy has learned in the last 8 years. Now, did the old guy learn? Well, maybe, but it's quite likely. At the age of 17, one is a teen, the hormones are there, one feels like it can conquer the whole world. But by 25, one has started taking some responsibility, one starts recognizing, life is not as easy as it seems. And yes, those who have gone through life, they also have some wisdom. They have something which I can know. So what happens? Sometimes experience also gives some perspectives. So that's why if somebody is not taking our feedback, then don't condemn that person. Let time, keep the relationship okay, but give them, they will go through their own experiences in life. And now the third, like a wild card, unpredictable is transcendence. Transcendence is, it is not just that they are going through experiences in life or we are going through experiences in life. It's Krishna who is Upadrashta Anumantaja. Krishna is guiding our experiences in life. Krishna is there in everyone's hearts. So if somebody doesn't listen to us and if they are going through some troublesome experiences, we can pray to Krishna. Krishna, please guide this person. Please protect this person. Even if this person makes some bad choices, please help them to see the consequences as quickly as possible. So here, it's important for us to understand that I am not God. And I cannot control any of me. So sometimes we have to let the other person go. So generally learning and growing happens by these three things. This is the acronym, what ties us forward. The tie that we develop, transcendence, intelligence and experience. Now most people, they learn more through experience, some things through intelligence, but transcendence is working. Sarvasya chaham udisannishto mattaha smritir jnana apohancha. So that mattaha smritir jnana apohancha. There's one devotee boy, I was talking with him that his parents were leading devotees in a community. And many teenagers, they have like a sense of rebellion. They want to explore the world. And they feel, in my childhood, I was not given any opportunity to explore the world. So they often rebel and they sometimes go into a lot of materialism. So this boy was very good. He used to, when he was a small child, he used to learn musical instruments, he could sing very nicely, he used to do kirtans. And then now he has become a very serious devotee. So I was asking him, what was his journey? What happened and how did he turn back? So he told me he had gone to some concert, like very sensual concert with a lot of materialistic friends. And his parents said initially told him, don't go and listen to that music. And sometimes devotees can quote something like any music that is not related with Krishna is like poison in your ears. So sometimes you can quote something like that. And that can seem very fanatical to somebody who's not really accepted it. So he had gone for that. And then all the whole music started. And his friends were enjoying. And he was experiencing that. And suddenly he felt from within. He said, this is just noise. This is just noise. He says, I'm not enjoying it at all. He felt that the kirtans that I was participating in the temple, even a routine kirtan was actually much sweeter, much better. So how did that thought come to him at that time? That is Krishna working. So the intelligence was there given, the experience came, but then that is tied together happens to transcendence. So that is why when we are giving feedback, we should not think that I have to control this person, that I have to do everything for this person. That is, I have to do my part and Krishna will do his part. So when we are helping someone, so when we are giving guidance or help, when we are guiding, the two extremes is that I have to do everything. I have to do everything. The other is I can do nothing. People never listen to me, I can do nothing. So I have to do everything, as again is Rajoguna. I can do nothing is Tamoguna. Now in between is that I do my part. And Krishna will do his part. Now when will Krishna do his part, how that part will happen, that depends. It requires time. So we have to give time. We shouldn't, if somebody, we give feedback, we want to help the other person learn, and the other person doesn't learn, we don't have to take it too personally. Just like we don't want to attack the character of the other person when we say motive suspicious. Similarly, if people don't listen to us, we don't have to take it as a personal failure. Let's say if our children are not practicing bhakti, it's okay, every soul has their own free will. If they are becoming good human beings, they are becoming responsible, it's good. And they will learn. They will learn in time. So, sometimes, if we are too insecure ourselves, then what happens is, children when they get to teenage and they get a little older, they may not be listening to us, but they are actually quite sharp. There's one boy who was born in a ISKCON family, now he's become an author. He says that my prominent childhood memory is my parents' constant disappointment that I was not the reincarnation of Prahlad Maharaj. And he said that I felt as if, my bhakti was more like my parents' trophy. My parents wanted to show the world how nice devotees we are by showing others how I am a devotee. So I felt that my parents didn't care for me at all. They cared only for their bhakti or their exhibition of their bhakti. Now, a child should never feel like that. That person is our child, and that child, we care for that person. If they become a devotee, that's wonderful. If they don't become a devotee, or I'm taking devotee as an example, if they don't do a particular thing, that does not mean that we don't care for that person. So everybody has to go through their experiences. We are not God. We do our part. And if it doesn't succeed, we shouldn't take it as a personal failure. Karmanyevadhikara, that applies to your instructions. Sometimes others will not listen. But if we maintain the relationship, yes, I am here for you, I am your well-wisher, then even if that person does not listen to us right now, then eventually when they go through some experiences, they will okay, what you are saying was right, is right. But if we make it into a very confrontational issue, I am telling you, you are wrong. You're not listening to me. One day you will realize, and then you will come back crawling to me. Even if they realize, they will not come back crawling. Isn't it what happened? Because it has become an ego issue. So we can of course tell, what we think is good. Certainly we should tell that. So, but after that, that other person doesn't listen, that doesn't mean we have to break or end the relationship. Yes, sometimes certain choices may take the person a little away from us, certain choices may bring the person closer to us. But give people time. Because Kalos, Krishna says, I am time. Through time, Krishna can work also. And Krishna can bring others closer. So in this way, when we are giving feedback, the important point is to learn how to do it in a way that maximizes the chance of their learning and growing. So, that as our topic, I'll summarize now what we discussed. With respect to giving feedback, our broad theme was, top 326 verse, what we want to happen and what we don't want to happen. That If, what we want is that if somebody is, if we are here, we want that person to come here, but we don't want that person to go down. So for this to not happen, we talked about how we can act. So what was A? Appreciation. So our overall attitude should be appreciative. So appreciative means that basically we look at the most positive explanation. So appreciation means for them, even if the action is objectionable, action is bad, look for the least bad explanation for the action. We discussed how if we have negative opinion about a person, if our attitude is not appreciative, then quite often we look for the worst explanation. Why did you eat so much? You have no self-control. Why did you sleep so much? You are so lazy. So we discussed how that when we see the action of a person, and then we do an assessment of the action. Why did the person do that action? What was the acronym we discussed over here? JA, JAM. J was judgment error. So everybody makes a judgment error. So start with judgment error. Then A was ability. Okay, that you made a mistake about how many people would come for a program. Ability deficiencies. So this person cannot read the room. This person cannot they don't have that ability to do this. And last is
Motive.
Motive suspicion, motive allegation or motive allegation. So now among these, it is best that we start with the positive. Generally when we like someone, we will start with the positive. When we dislike someone, we will jump to the negative. So we don't want to go in this direction. So start with the positive and then move forward from there. Then C was what? Communication. So in communication, I talk about how when we are functioning in life, that most disagreements come because when we are starting a discussion, do we start with what we agree or do we start with what we disagree? So if you start with agree, that is good. Chance of some common ground is better to come to. If you disagree, then it's going to be very difficult. So generally we agree about what is objective and we disagree about what is subjective. That's why it's best to start with what is objective and move towards the subjective. So we discussed that. The objective, and what was the acronym we discussed for this?
Air.
Air. So give people some breathing space. So AIR. So A was what? Action. Start with the action. What did you do? Then talk about the impact of the action. And then give a recommendation. So when this happens, then the person has something that they can do. And talking about action and impact, this together is like giving vision to the person. And because vision is much better as contrasted with giving instructions. Don't do this, do this. That often brings out the rebelliousness within the person. Why should I not do this? The last T was time. So time means that everybody goes through their own learning phases. So we discussed about how it is not that we have to give up. What we give is not our time, but we give them their time, give them time to learn. Our time means if somebody is not listening, we don't have to spend hours and hours upon that person repeatedly. They'll feel that we are imposing on them. But give others time. So we discuss how when learning and growing happens, there are many factors involved in that. So our contribution is only one of those. What are the three factors? TIE we discussed. We are giving them intelligence. That is one factor. Then the experience that they go through is another factor. And transcendence. Transcendence is Krishna is orchestrating things to help them learn and grow. So transcendence and experience is where these are two. Intelligence is what we give, and transcendence and experiences we give the other person time. So what we do is when we are guiding, we avoid the extremes of that I have to make the other person I have to do everything for the other person. I have to get the other person to listen, or I have to do everything, I can do nothing. So I have to do everything, I can do nothing. In between these two is
I do my job.
I do my part.
Krishna
So
does.
people don't listen, so I don't tell them only. But in between is I do my part and I leave it to Krishna. Krishna will do his part in due course. So when we have this attitude, then what will happen is that we will be able to maintain the relationship. We won't take the refusal as a personal failure, and we will maintain the relationship, keep the door open for the other person to grow when they choose to grow. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. Amazing.